Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your weekly home for sports news, video game reviews, and hot takes with your hosts, Brandon, Zach, and Justin. Enjoy the show.
What is up, guys? Hope everybody had a happy Wednesday. This is a special episode of the Nest Podcast. Zach and I had our baseball world shattered last night at around 9:30 p.m. Eastern time when the news broke that Marcus Lynn Betts and David Price are on their way to Los Angeles. And, you know, Zach, we were both just sitting there chilling and we found out roughly around the same time. And we talked about it a little bit, but let the people at home know what your immediate thoughts and reaction was to that news.
Well, I much like we kind of talked about on Monday, I thought the same thing about Mookie. I think it's just too much for one player. So I was in agreement with the Red Sox to let him go. However, I don't know that they got enough for him. Yes, they did get prospects, but with prospects, it's a big gamble because they could get a severe injury. I guess that's the case for anyone, but nonetheless, with these young guys, they could possibly not pan out. If I were the Red Sox, I would have asked for a little bit more from either the Dodgers or the Twins. I would have maybe tried to go after Jorge Polanco or one of those younger guys that is a proven talent, not necessarily just a young prospect.
And that's what a lot of Red Sox fans that I've been seeing on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else, that's what they've been saying too, is that they don't feel that they got enough. While I am inclined to agree that I wish they would have gotten some prospects or at least some draft picks or something extra, but being able to shave off almost $100 million with a couple strokes of a pen is pretty magnificent from a fiscal standpoint. From the budgeting department there at Fenway, they're pretty happy with this move because they were able to offload $27 million that's owed to Mookie Betts this year, plus half of the $96 million or whatever it is that David Price is owed. So they were able to cut that off the books. And then they're bringing in two guys that Alex Verdugo is on his second year of his contract, so he's making league minimum, maybe a step above. And then Brusdar Graterol, I'm going to have to work on that name. Graterol, I think is how they pronounce it. But he's still on a minor league deal, so he's making not even major league minimum. So they shaved off a lot and didn't take on a lot of money on that end. So a lot of the people that are arguing like, oh, they should have got a proven major league talent. Why didn't they get Jock Pederson or somebody like that who ended up in another trade, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But why didn't they get Jock Pederson? Well, Jock Pederson makes a lot more money. And
Right.
And that's not what you want. But I get your point. I wish they would have gotten a little bit more, though.
That's the whole saving grace of this whole trade is I think they set out to just clear, not cap space, but I can't think of a better word for it, to just clear funding. Like you said, they've been trying to get under the luxury threshold, and that's what they did. They accomplished that. And like you said, for a fan, it seems like they got screwed, but they weren't necessarily looking to trade a talented player for more talented players. They were trying to offload that money, and they accomplished that. So I still think they should have gotten at least one significant player just to kind of fill his role, because that's going to be a huge bat to try to fill. But like I said, they accomplished their mission of clearing up that money. So
That, you hit the nail on the head, Zach. That's a huge bat to fill. Yeah, it's also a Gold Glove right field, and right field at Fenway Park is tricky. It takes a good, talented player to be able to play that, but you could have that in Alex Verdugo. This kid's a young five-tool player, much like Betts was when he came up. In fact, the two had fairly similar numbers in their first full season in the bigs, which bodes well for Verdugo. Um, let's see. In his first season, Betts hit 291 with 18 homers and 77 RBIs. Everybody knew the kid was the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Verdugo hit 294 with 12 homers and 44 RBIs. So a little more on the average, a little less on the pop. But Fenway Park is made for a left-handed hitter's stroke. So I project that he's going to have a great time hitting those wall ball doubles.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
But and then as far as Gratterol is concerned, he was the number 3 prospect in the Twins organization and number 53 overall in the MLB pipeline. So dude's legit.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a slouch, and like I said, you're getting him for basically peanuts, and that's outstanding for the Red Sox, who have guys on the payroll who don't even play for the team. A lot of fans don't realize that they're still paying Pablo Sandoval millions, and he's on a minor league deal with the Giants because he can't even hack it in the majors.
Wow.
The Red Sox are paying Rusney Castillo to play in Pawtucket because he's not good enough to be on the big league roster. But he made all this money whenever he signed because he was a big international signing and all this stuff. Anyway, let's get back to this trade before we get widely off topic. So Mookie and Price off to LA. Vegas lost their damn mind going ahead and declaring LA the odds-on favorite for the World Series and all that stuff. It was a pretty good day for the City of Angels all around.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
that the Angels yet again bolstered their roster, and they're just stacking that team.
yeah, they added Jock Pederson from the Crosstown Dodgers, and that's pretty phenomenal that they were able to add another power bat in their outfield to go alongside of Trout. So now that entire right side of the outfield is basically a no-fly zone because you have Trout in center and you have Jock Pederson in right patrolling. Good to go. That shores up your defense on that side. Plus, you've got the bats that can rake. Left-handers, when Shohei Ohtani, who will be back and healthy this year, pitching and hitting, when Shohei Ohtani first came to the Angels, they did a modification to their park that made their home run line, instead of behind the bullpens, in front of the bullpens. Specifically where Shohei likes to hit home runs. So they made it just a little bit shorter for him. But you know who else that benefits is Jock Pederson. So his home run numbers will likely see a tick up because it's a homer-friendly park.
Right.
They're going to be stacked. I think that move alone separates them from the A's in the West this year. I think that puts them ahead of the A's and puts the Angels in the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. They finally have a real chance, and it's looking great for that entire city, I think, because the Dodgers are obviously they make it. They have made it at least damn near every year to the World Series and come up short. But I think now with Mookie and with David Price, you've got guys who've been there, so that always helps. Veteran players that know how to play in the World Series and can show up for it. So just LA in general is going to be on fire, I think, this year for baseball.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good for the sport to have two really good teams in that big market. Same thing when the Mets and the Yankees are both good. That's good for baseball because that gets millions of people buzzing about the sport, and it gets infectious. It spreads faster than the coronavirus. And I would much rather everybody be infected with baseball.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now getting to the Red Sox, we talked about who they got. I want to talk a little bit about the reason why they got him. Why they got this trade is because of Chaim Bloom. Chaim Bloom was brought to the Red Sox to cut payroll, to cut money. He came in to monster contracts everywhere. Most recent to that was the Chris Sale extension, and before that, the Xander extension. But I think what really threw the wrench in the plans was when JD Martinez opted in to his contract with the Red Sox. I think that made him have to refigure and recalculate about $25 million. That's why you had to lump Mookie into this deal to dump David Price. He was always going to dump David Price and his $96 million. That was going to be one of his main goals. Mookie was the byproduct of JD Martinez opting in. And if you remember, Zach, months and months and months ago, I don't even know what episode it was on, but I said the only way that the Red Sox can keep Mookie Betts is if JD Martinez walks.
Yep.
If JD Martinez, if they want to keep JD Martinez, then Mookie's gone. You're not going to be able to keep both. And that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, sometimes it sucks to be right. And in this case, it's one of those times. But fuck.
Yeah.
It wrecks everything that the Red Sox had. A lot of people are saying like, oh, that JD was the person that's the most wronged in this whole situation because he opted in for a chance to win the championship. You can still contend with this team. You haven't punted anything. Yeah, you lack a little depth, but you've got to hope that your guys that are coming up are actually worth a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Dahlbeck is supposed to come up any day. He's not on the big league roster yet, but he's the number one prospect in the Red Sox organization. He's supposed to be a heavy hitting infielder. So a guy with a lot of pop, and that's always good to have come up late in a season and give you that late season spark. But right now, the way that it looks, you've got Alex Verdugo, a speedster, a five-tool player, a guy that will get on base, hit a lot of singles, a lot of doubles, especially there in Fenway, get on base, and then you've got Rafi Devers behind him. We all know that kid's got pop. We all know that kid can play. Behind him, you've got Xander Bogaerts. Xander Bogaerts is my pick for the best shortstop in the American League. Second to Lindor. Lindor is the best, but he's the second best shortstop in the American League. Trevor Story might be a little bit better. That kid's good too. He plays in the National League though. He's in the Rockies. But then after that, you've got JD Martinez, one of the most clutch hitters on the planet. And then Benny, Andrew Benintendi, Michael Chavis, Mitch Moreland's back. Christian Vasquez is back. Jackie Bradley Jr. is back. Most of these guys are your 2018 World Series champions.
Right.
The guys that won 108 games. Mookie Betts' WAR last season was only like 6.6 or something like that. So that means you shave 6 wins off for Mookie Betts' productivity, and you're still sitting at over 100 wins with the same fucking guys. Oh, yeah, plus Verdugo's going to contribute too.
Right. This is the classic case of a team is shit hot and wins, and then some things start shuffling around, and the fans think that the world is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sky was falling. The fans were outraged, throwing a hissy fit. Oh, you let the fans down. You let the city down, whatever. Now, the one area of concern that a lot of people have, the batting lineup is okay. A lot of people do agree that the offense still will be potent, but a lot of people are concerned with the pitching, rightfully so in some regard. I think in the starting position, starting pitchers, it will get shaky at times. Chris Sale, we know what we got with Sale. As long as he comes in healthy, you've got a monster. Eduardo Rodriguez, Erod. Dude is money. Dude is ready to step up into this role of being the number 2 on the staff, being relied on in heavy clutch situations. Erod's the man for the job. Nathan Eovaldi, the kid that pitched 6.5 scoreless innings in extra innings in the World Series for the Red Sox. He was a legend that night, and they gave him a monster contract because of it. That's also part of the financial downfalls, is because they acted on emotions, given this guy who had had multiple elbow surgeries a huge paycheck, but whatever. He's going to be back. From everything that I'm seeing, he's healthy. Hopefully he can hold up for good chunks of the season. I'm not counting on him being there the entire season. And then we have Martin Perez. I'm not really familiar with Martin Perez. He was just acquired by Heimblum in this offseason. He's a young guy, to be determined. And then the 5 hole is where it gets interesting, because this is where we're going to have the Heimblum special, the opener, the tactic that was implemented in Tampa, where they have relievers start the game, pitch 1 or 2 innings, and then just piece it together, little bits at a time. That's what you're going to see a lot in Boston this year from the 5 hole. You're going to see maybe, Darwinson Hernandez go out there and throw 3 electric innings for you, and then he's going to have, I don't know, maybe this new cat, maybe it's Gratterol coming in after him. But who knows? You're going to see a lot of new names, a lot of new faces, but you're going to see a lot of the same guys cycled back and forth between AAA and the majors.
Right. We've got a question from a viewer. Is Mookie going to do better in the National League?
He will do a lot better in the National League West. Had he gone to the Central or the East, I think it would have been a different story. But I think out in the National League West, he's going to face the Padres a lot. He's going to face the Giants a lot. He's going to face the Rockies and the Diamondbacks a lot. So he doesn't really have a lot of competition. Call a spade a spade. The Dodgers are in the division just like the Patriots are in the NFL. Mm-hmm. It's a more of a cupcake division where if you're a good team, you're going to steamroll it every year. So to that, because he's on the Dodgers and because he's in the National League West, I do think he will perform at probably an MVP level, which is scary because they also have Bellinger, who's an MVP too.
Yeah. Yeah, that team is insane.
Who asked that question?
Chris Cordy.
Oh, Topher. What's up, man? I hope he's still watching. Yeah, Cortez was the dude that I deployed with to Bahrain. Real good dude.
Gotcha.
Things that I hope happen next, and I'll go on a limb and say that some of them are even predictions. Like I really think that it's going to happen the way that the cards are falling. By the end of the week, by Friday afternoon, the Red Sox should have signed their manager. Now that the shit show with Mookie is over, now that all of the drama and all that stuff is settled down, he knows more of what he's walking into. I think a manager will be signed and ready to go. I don't think it's going to be a huge announcement. I think it'll be something Friday afternoon, just, hey, this is our new manager going into the season, and then it'll be quiet for the weekend. That way Monday he can come in fresh and get ready for work, because pitchers and catchers report next week.
Yep.
So he's got to be ready to start, and he's got to at least have a couple working days in Boston with the front offices and stuff like that. Better to start your week on a Monday, so I say they announce it on Friday. I think the Red Sox sign Brock Holt, free agent that's been floating around. He's been rumored to have interest drawn from the Reds. Rumors that he's been linked to the Pirates, linked to the Blue Jays, but for some reason he's not being offered a deal or he's not signing the deals. I think now that he's still out there, the Red Sox have a little bit of money to spend now. Yeah. It might be time to bring Brock Starr back to Boston, at least on a short-term deal. You need it because Dustin Pedroia is most likely not going to play, and we know what we can get out of Brock Holt at second base. We know he's a reliable infielder, and that's what you need right now. Make that move. And my long shot prediction or bold prediction out of all of this is that after the 2020 season, the Red Sox offer, I don't know if this will ever even become public knowledge, but I bet the Red Sox offer Mookie Betts a 10-year, $375 million contract in free agency, which he asked for 12-year, $420, which is an average annual value of $35 million. At 10 years, $375, that's $37.5 million. So that's $2.5 million more per year for the less years. But I for some reason, I get the Aroldis Chapman vibe from this trade, because now all of a sudden that Mookie's traded, stories are coming out saying that he never wanted to leave Boston. He never intended to leave. He wanted to stay and all this stuff. But the narrative leading up to this was, I want to be a free agent. I want to test free agency. I want to see where it can bring me and stuff like that. Never did he say he wanted out, but he never expressed that he wanted in.
Right.
And now that he's saying that, it kind of makes me think he might want to come back. So if they offer him the deal, go on, get you another ring out in the National League. Go on, get you another MVP out in the National League, and then come on home, Mook. The Red Sox just got under the threshold, so they're not going to get fined. They're going to get all of their draft picks restored and all of that good stuff. They'll get to load up the farm system a little bit, and then they can offer Betts that mammoth deal. A lot more money is going to be dropping off the shelf next year, so they can possibly even stay under that budget for a few years while also carrying Betts. That would be a best case scenario, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I remember some sort of tweet or Instagram post or something from Mookie that basically said, if he does happen to get traded, he's basically not going to take it as a bad juju or whatever. He knows it's just business.
It's business.
So I think there's no bad blood there, and if the number is right, they might just do that.
What will fuck it up is the fans. If the fans start bad mouthing him, burning his jerseys and shit like that, then he'll be like, well, fuck them too then. I guess I'll just stay gone.
That, or if he gets really used to not having a winter.
Yeah, that's true.
Life is easy out there in California.
But he doesn't stay in Boston in the winter anyway.
I guess that's true. He probably goes back to Tennessee, huh?
Yeah, most of these guys go back to their home states or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
In the off season. But he's LA bound now. The Twins snuck out of nowhere and got their nose in this deal somehow and ended up prying Kenta Maeda from the Dodgers. That was their compensation for giving up on their number 3 prospect. So they got a reliable arm. The Twins, they won 101 games last year. They basically ran away with the American League Central and couldn't win a damn game in the playoffs against the Yankees because they had shaky pitching, and they just got beat up. So adding a reliable arm is a good step in the right direction if you're going to be a contender. They've made other steps in the offseason. They signed Rich Hill, also from the Dodgers, but they've restaffed and retooled a little bit. So we'll see what they do. We're going to do episodic breakdowns of all of the leagues leading up, through spring training up to opening day. So we're going to look at all these divisions piece by piece and really analyze it and try to guess where we think everybody's going to end up or whatever. But yeah, Maeda's a pretty good pickup to there. Do you know anything about him, Zach? You're a National League guy.
I just know that he is a solid pitcher. The most interesting thing about the Twins picking up Maeda is the flip side of it is the Dodgers have now lost two good arms in Ryu and Maeda. So what does that say about their pitching going forward? Of course they've got Walker Buehler and
Kershaw.
Kershaw. So
they just added David Price.
That's right. So their starting pitching is relatively solid, but I think they lost a huge arm in Ryu, I think. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the team.
I think that's their biggest loss on the season, but overall they've had an outstanding offseason. The Dodgers won the offseason and possibly the World Series with the moves they made. But and then we've talked about the Angels. If you had to go down and give everybody grades, like a letter grade report card, how would you rate it? I'm just curious.
Angels, absolutely A+.
Mm-hmm.
They did damn near everything they needed to do. They gave Mike Trout the players that he needs around him to perform and to help with the bats.
I still worry about their pitching.
I was just say I don't know who or what kind of players they picked up for pitching, so that's a question mark. But other than that, they picked up huge bats, so I guess that's what they're going for.
Yeah. What about the Dodgers? You think they're A+? Also, yeah.
I'd say they're a solid A. Picking up Mookie is huge, obviously. David Price is great too. Who else have they picked up this year?
Well, they just picked up that infielder from the Angels, whatever his name was.
Calhoun?
No, it was Luis Renegro or Renegro. Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
He's not really a difference maker. He was just for some reason, yeah. But they traded him for Jock Pederson, so they must see something in the guy.
That's an interesting take.
The Dodgers just had they're kind of like the Cardinals in that they just had so many outfielders, and then they added Mookie Betts, so of course he's going to be an everyday player. You've got Bellinger, he's an everyday player. So
Yep. Speaking of the Cardinals, I've got to give them a F, D- on offseason. They acquired, I think, a few unknown pitchers, like a left-hander that I don't even remember their names. I believe they're prospects. Of course, gave up Marcelo Ozuna in free agency. They did give him an offer, but he obviously didn't want it, so lost him. And they haven't picked up anyone. I'm gonna assume that they're just, building the farm system and gonna see what the younger guys can do. So nothing to report as a fan for the off season. Nothing good, at least. So it is what it is. Our owner is very cheap, and that's good and bad in my opinion. Imagine if we would have paid Albert Pujols all that money for him to just play the way he's played for the Angels. That would have sucked.
Sure. So. And there's something that is to be said and desired about having a conservative GM. The Red Sox had Dave Dombrowski, and he was a very loose, very liberal with his cash funds GM, and he depleted the farm system. He paid a lot of money in contracts, and that's why the Red Sox are in the situation that they're in. And Chaim Bloom is one of those conservative guys. Like, it sounds like the the Cardinals GM is as well, that makes smart decisions. They invest wisely in guys. They don't try to overdo it. They try to get the guys, the superstars that they need at the right price, but they don't want to overextend. I know getting Goldschmidt for you guys was a huge deal because a lot of people didn't think they were going to pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah. And that's basically the threshold, as far as I can tell, for that organization to pay a guy. And I understand it. In MLB, you can get a good player for 6, 7, 8 years for way less than you can for the rest of his career. And by that point, he's going to start diminishing. So, I mean, I get it from a monetary standpoint. So, like I said, there's good and bad. And we'll just see what the young guys can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about the Yankees for a moment. The Yankees weren't involved in any trades yesterday, at least, any of the blockbusters. But they also had some news come out, and it's been buried. And Yankee fans are so happy that it's getting buried because Peter Gammon said that on a recent podcast that he was on, that retired outfielder Chris Young said that he came up with the scheme for the Apple Watches and all that stuff back in 2015 when he played for the Yankees. And he started showing the guys like, hey, look at this shit that we can do. We can talk to each other with the Apple Watches, boom, boom, bing, bang, boom. We can get a little bit of an advantage, right? So he ends up going on to the Red Sox and telling them the same thing. Like, hey, check this shit out, guys. Brian McCann, who was the catcher for the Yankees in 2015, goes on to the Houston Astros. Of course, we all know what happened there. So for the Yankee fans that have been having that holier than thou attitude all offseason during all these scandals, y'all just as guilty as everybody else. Your dirt's just now starting to come out. So be patient. More stuff will come out. But I want to get back to your grades. I agree with you with A's for both LA teams. I think both of them have been fantastic. I want to know what your grade is for the Red Sox, specifically on this trade that they just pulled.
I gotta give them at least a B, because like we've harped on, they've been trying to get under the luxury threshold, and they've been trying to offload some of these big contracts, and they succeeded. They might not have been able to fill those positions, but that wasn't the goal. They're going to rely on the guys that, like you said, were already on the World Series winning team that are still there. They're just going to have to get rid of or say goodbye to one of their biggest stars, and thus that gains them millions of dollars, and they can build their farm system. So on the surface, it seems like they fucked up, but when you really start to dive into it, they did what they needed to do. They met their goals. So while it might not make the average fan happy, while it might not seem like they have a chance in hell, they're playing the long game here.
I agree on most of your points, but I grade it as a C- for pretty much the same reasons. He accomplished what he was brought to do. He did that to the T. So A+ to Chaim Bloom. Chaim Bloom gets an A+ for the offseason because he did what he was set out to do, and that was cut the money. They said, hey, welcome to the Oakland Red Sox. Chaim Bloom, your new role is Billy Beane. Go ahead, do what you do, make our team good for cheap. And he said, got it. So he gets an A+. Ugh. But the trade on paper, whenever you just look at it, you traded away Mookie Betts. You traded away a league MVP. You made it so that there were 2 MVPs in one outfield in Los Angeles. You've made it so that there are 3 MVPs in the city of Los Angeles. Fucking A. You traded Mookie Betts. Guys like Mookie come around once every 50 years or so. You know, the last guy that probably was generational talent or whatever for the Red Sox was probably Yastrzemski back in the 70s or so, 70s, 80s. He came along at the end of Ted Williams' time, who before him was the other wonder kid. But, you know, Mookie was a special homegrown talent, and that's hard to let go. But God, that's why I have to give him that C minus, because Mookie could have been the next Ted Williams, could have been the next Carl Yastrzemski. Number 50 could have been retired behind pesky pole one day. But now that's all what could have been, unless he comes back as a free agent.
Yeah, and if you've got to think, if they were to keep Mookie, they would have had to pay him whatever he wanted at $400 million. So there's no way they would have been able to do what old boy was out there to do.
Yeah, no. And, you know, like I said earlier, a lot of things happened that had to fall in place just right for it to kind of make it to where Mookie Betts had to be the sacrificial lamb. But it is what it is. Move on. We've still got 162 games to play this season.
Yeah.
We're not out of it yet.
It seems like they knew that JD Martinez was going to be the cheaper option.
Yeah. If JD would have walked, they would have
had no choice. Yeah. That decision would have been made for them. But since JD stayed and they said, well, all right, well, he's our cheaper option, so got to do what you got to do.
Yep. And at that point, they were like, well, Betts has to go, or we have to basically package like half the team to go. Right. And either way, fans were going to be upset. Either way, you know, it was going to disrupt everything. So we were all bound to be upset anyway. The last thing that I want to cover tonight, Zach, is I don't even know if you've seen this because I just saw this right before we came on. Pete Rose is back in the news. And my man is using the Astros sign stealing scandal as his defense to be like, hey, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, what the fuck?
I think he's got damn near the entire MLB fan base behind him on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a majority. I have seen some people who are like, nope, he gambled. He's tarnished the game. And it's like, okay, I get it. Like you guys are trying to link it to the 1930s Black Sox scandal where they, basically threw games in the World Series because they were getting a bigger payday to lose than they were to win. And no, he was betting on his own team to win ball games. Fuck off.
That's a no-brainer. Of course you're going to bet on your own team to win. Like, the fuck?
Yeah. Let Pete in. Put Pete in the Hall of Fame. Put him in. Put Barry in. Put Clemens in. And most definitely put Schilling in.
Yep. Yeah, I think I don't know if we've talked about. I think we've mentioned it a little briefly, but this year's MLB Hall of Fame was just a complete dog shit. Just everything about it was trash. The whole Derek Jeter thing was stupid, and then they just shit on Curt Schilling again.
Yeah. So, and then they let Larry Walker in, which I mean, good for him, but
he got the pity induction.
It was like the one guy that didn't vote for Jeter like made a strong case for Walker to get in.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, that's my guy.
The only thing that I really know about Walker is whenever he faced off against Randy Johnson, I believe it was, and he kept switching his batting position and he flipped his helmet around. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
You'll have to look that up. It's fucking ridiculous. I think he was trying to fuck with Randy Johnson.
I'm sure he was.
It was insane. That's the only thing I really know about him. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to add to this one?
I can't wait for opening day. I mean, 50 days is too long to wait. So I'm going to be watching every single spring training game that I possibly can.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to be watching a lot of spring training. I'm going to be probably just flipping back and forth between a lot of teams all season long. Of course, I'm going to try to watch as many Red Sox games as possible because that's my go-to.
Yeah.
But I do want to try to make sure that I catch games from around the league so that, I'm caught up with all of your Cardinal stuff and your National League. And, hey, from what they're saying, they may implement the DH in the National League soon. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's
you better watch the junior circuit as is while you can.
right. Yeah. I think it's coming sooner than people think.
Senior circuit. I'm sorry. The National League is the senior circuit.
Gotcha.
They were around first. They're not better though. That's why they're changing their rules to be like the American League.
Nope. I mean, why wouldn't you want a better batter than your pitcher? It's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the tradition.
We are going to be back on Monday. Justin wishes he could have been on tonight, but we kind of sprung this one together last minute. We will be back on Monday, but it's going to be a little bit of a different episode. So we're going to have Tanner, I think his last name is pronounced Rahier, Rahier, Tanner Rahier. He's going to come on. He's a former pitcher in the Cincinnati Reds organization, or not pitcher, third baseman and shortstop in the Cincinnati Reds organization. And he's going to come and talk to us, kind of let us know what it's like for these guys that are just about to go through spring training as a big leaguer and stuff like that, because he's got firsthand experience. And we invite all of our listeners to tune in to the live stream, and you can ask questions in real time, and we'll help answer them and try to get Tanner to chime in on the conversation and what he thinks or whatever to answer your questions. So yeah, tune back in. It'll be Monday at 7 Eastern time, right here at the Nest Podcast.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. See you guys then.
Thanks for listening. New episodes are recorded every week.